It is quite a brutal scene, but I can't get into the details of exactly what occurred.
I believe it was the police department that had told me the way that Kay was murdered, that they had slit her throat, not only once, but twice. And to hear something like that, after just knowing that you don't have your sister, but what the horror that she went through before she died, she had to know she was running for her life.
It's driving me crazy trying to figure out what took place. It's horrible. It's really horrible, and especially if you don't know why.
I bet Kay went on, never told anyone what she really was. I told her this is what happened if she didn't keep her promises to me. I think she was killed by somebody that was known to her. It's intriguing. It's a challenge. It's a mystery. That's why we keep going back to it.
Somebody is responsible for this. Then they need to be held accountable. I have an idea or a suspect in mind, but I'm afraid for my life. I mean, if Kay can be killed, anybody can be killed. There are things about this case I don't feel comfortable saying on camera.
This was my last trip to Atlanta when I saw Kay for the very last time. Who would have ever known this would be the last day? I'm grateful for that time I had with her and with Hal too. Oh, Hal was very, very kind. He wanted to surprise Kay for her 60th birthday. So he sent me a first class ticket out to surprise her. We got to the house and Hal calls Kay and says, I have your present here now. It took me a while to get it into the house. I'm sitting in the living room. And I'll never forget Kay coming in the door in this little short black tree, looked up and went, oh, Penny. I said, happy birthday, Kay. Your husband did this for you. And oh my gosh, we just cried and hugged and it was so exciting. Kay was so happy, but nothing seemed wrong. Both of them seemed so happy. Happy with each other, happy with life. But then when I found out that was going to be the last time I ever saw my sister, it meant more to me than anything in the whole wide world. Because you don't think you're going to leave there and not see her again. But that's what happened. On Thursday night, I got to bed and I was watching TV and the house phone rang. And it was Hal. And he says, Pammy, Kay is dead. Hal told me, he said, Pammy, it's a homicide. And I was just, what do you mean it's a homicide? Somebody killed her? Yes. It's like being in a cloud or something. You don't really realize what you're doing, what you're saying, where you're going. It doesn't feel like you're really there hearing all this stuff. And I just screamed and walked out of the room. Because not Kay. Kay's the person that could defend herself. Kay's a person that took care of everybody else. And we don't have her anymore. And that'll destroy you. Absolutely destroy your life. Just 15 years now, and we still don't know. But I want to know so bad. I just want to know why. And who would do that to Kay?
After the murder and after the initial response, we were brought into a meeting and we go over the case. And in this particular case, we built kind of a task force. And we're trying to figure out what the happened. When you look at the case files, what sticks out is that Kay was not your typical victim. Kay was, just leading a normal housewife life. She's married, living in a middle-class neighborhood. Her husband was Hal Wennell. For the best I can explain it, he would buy property and develop shopping centers. She didn't put herself in any kind of situation that would bring violence to her. That right away will grab you. May 1st, 2008, we get a call to the Wennell residence. Hal comes home from work. He discovers Kay on the kitchen floor. So emotional that he can't talk, he gets a neighbor to finish the 911 call. We bring everybody out of the house. We secure the crime scene. We find Kay on the kitchen floor, a significant amount of blood. She bled out because her throat was cut. It seemed like whoever killed her wanted to make sure that she was dead, because after the initial cut, there was a second cut, and it almost beheaded her, actually. It was so violent. I think the way she was killed tells me that he's either very angry and they had a personal relationship, or it's someone who's a professional and they knew what they were doing. From what we can tell from the initial scene is that Kay is reading a book in the little study area next to the front door, somewhere between 1 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. No forced entry, so we think Kay answered the door. Whether she knew who was at the door or not, we don't know, but we know she answered the door because she was hit right there. She was wearing glasses, reading glasses, so we can see those were broken near the front door. And she had an injury to her face, which suggests she was hit or punched. She had to have been terrified. And I'm sure the last few seconds, it was horrifying. I couldn't imagine going through that. The crime scene techs discover a small piece of a latex glove, which we thought was just a piece of the fingertip of a glove. That was it. The glove is found at the front door where she's immediately struck, right? So I'm assuming that there's some struggle there and it gets torn or ripped. Now, important, absolutely, because it gives us our first good lead that someone came prepared. They're wearing gloves, right? They're coming here to do a specific act, and they're trying to cover up that act. This is the towel that we found on the crime scene that was dabbed with blood. And then it was brought up and left upstairs on the second floor on a locked file cabinet inside a closet. So this is a photograph of the jewelry that we found in a locked cabinet, reportedly $1 million worth. Al said that nothing was missing. So I can't imagine someone going in for a robbery and not taking $1 million worth of jewelry. So why go upstairs, right? I think not knowing what the reason to go upstairs was a missing link. I think if we had information on something that was taken or missing, then it would certainly help the investigation. It would give us a direction. So yes, it's extremely frustrating. We did also find inside that locked cabinet things that Hal wasn't aware of. There were some, some lingerie that he was not aware of. So maybe she was having an affair with somebody that she was trying to hide. But we don't have anything to suggest that we have a robbery. We don't have a sexual assault. What's the motive? The motive is just to kill her. There is no other motive besides killing her. We didn't gather any evidence from the lingerie, no DNA, no name that we could associate it with. The blood on the towel belongs to Kay, and there's no blood belonging to anybody else or DNA that was extracted. We ultimately get a DNA profile from the tip of the glove. The GBI puts that profile into the federal CODIS system, which anybody who's been arrested for a felony, their DNA, they're gonna be swabbed and their DNA is gonna be put into this database that we can now compare to the DNA we got from our scene. When we don't get a hit in CODIS, we now have to start looking at, maybe it's not a professional. Your suspect pool is getting more complicated. Either it's a relationship or somebody in her life, a coworker or acquaintance, somebody who had contact with her. It's intriguing. It's a challenge. It's a mystery. That's why we keep going back to it.
On Thursday, 60-year-old Eva K. Wennell was found dead in her home by her husband.
It's very difficult right now. Having a very rough time. It's the hardest thing I've ever faced.
It is quite a brutal scene, but I can't get into the details of exactly what occurred.
She could walk through a room and everybody would turn their head and look at her, watch her walk and sit down. And she loved that. She loved that attention. And if you spoke to her, then her personality was beautiful also. She was gorgeous inside and out. Kay met her third husband in Miami, and they moved to Las Vegas. And I think she was a bunny for probably around 5 years. Kay's third husband had asked her to go to the airport and pick up a business partner for him. And this business associate was Hal Wennell. Now, Hal was married, Kay was married. I didn't know about this affair until maybe a year into it. And then Kay calls me and says, I'm getting a divorce and I'm gonna start over. Then the next thing I knew, Kay was getting married to Hal. They just both seemed very, very happy. Hal didn't talk to me about being a suspect, but I knew he was because that's just the norm. But just the way that he loved Kay, I just don't think he could do that to her.
There's blood splattered all over the floor and some on the banister rails, and
The whole scene indicates that whoever did this is somebody that she knew. And it also looks very much like whoever did this came to the house with the intention of doing this.
no question. I don't think it was a random robbery or anything. I'm only giving you my opinion. Somebody came there with the intent of, I don't know what.
The first time I met Hal and Kay was at a grand opening of one of their shopping centers down in Stockbridge. Hal and Kay were all over each other. And if he wasn't touching her, she was touching him. I remember saying, go get a room. They were just constantly very lovey-dovey to one another. I absolutely think that their love for one another was very genuine, very genuine. Hal was a pistol to work with. He was very demanding. He didn't yell very often, but when he was ticked off, you knew it. He expected nothing but excellence from his employees and loyalty. Kay was tenant coordinator, leasing agent. Anybody could talk to her. She was not snooty. She's very personable, very nice. And she was a sweetheart. She was a sweetheart. I looked up to her. Perfect marriage, I thought. Successful business. I thought she had it all. July of 2007, I started realizing everything was not as it seemed. It was not kosher. Hal was getting ready to sell the shopping center to a group of businessmen. But Hal was paying his tenants rent so that it looked good on paper. He was essentially cheating. But it was soon after the shopping center sold that the buyers found out about it. And then I had found out that, another shopping center and then another shopping center was the same way. And he had many lawsuits against him. 2 of the lawsuits started before Kay's death. I never talked to Kay about the lawsuits, but I believe that she knew about them.
Whoever did this because one of 2 reasons. They're very angry with her, or they're very angry with you. And
I can't figure anybody I've been in this game for 40 years. Who the hell kills your wife? Not even the mafia does that. I mean, that's insanity.
We did find some, I'll call shady business dealings. It appeared that maybe Hal was borrowing from one person to pay the next person off. I was told of some people that he may have burned in the past, groups of real estate investors and such like that. From the initial investigation, we understand that Hal was at work all day. And we can confirm that because his coworkers. So we know that he's not a viable suspect for us at that point as far as physically doing it. But was she killed because of something Hal did, or as retribution for something Hal did, as revenge? We start, as much as we can, digging into his finances, his business dealings, people maybe that he's had some fraud with over the years or cheated out of money. And we just couldn't find any solid link to the murder. It appeared to us as investigators that Hal was doing everything he could to find out who killed Kay. And he even put up a reward, a significant reward. And I think he did it ultimately because he wanted to find out what happened to her. There was nothing in her past or his past that would suggest any motive for him to have her killed. I mean, there would be I didn't see an insurance policy. They were happily married from all accounts. They loved each other. I just didn't see a motive. He says the day prior to the murder, he is out smoking a cigarette and he sees a male loitering around in the cul-de-sac. And he approaches him and asks him the reason he's in there, and he tells him that he's looking to buy a house. He shows him a flyer for a house for sale, but it's in a neighborhood miles away. The next day, he's upstairs in a room, and he happens to look out and he sees that same male approaching the Wennell house somewhere just after 1 o'clock. But he loses sight of that person as they walk up the driveway. So this is the sketch that our witness created from his memory of seeing our potential suspect twice. I'm 100% confident that this is the guy that went into the house that day. It's too much to believe in a homicide and coincidence like that. It would be too much of a coincidence to believe that he's not involved. I absolutely believe the man in the composite sketch is the one that was responsible for Kay's death.
I believe it was the police department that had told me the way that Kay was murdered. They had told me that, and it looked like she had turned around and started running through the house to get away from them. And they said that they didn't only cut her throat once, but they cut her throat twice. And to hear something like that, the horror that she went through before she died, it's just, I just can't imagine that kind of horror. She had to know she was running for her life.
She was home the day that she was murdered. From what I've been told, she didn't feel good that day. I know she went by the office and brought Hal some lunch, and they were supposed to go out to dinner that night, but he never reached her. He kept calling, and she didn't answer, and that was very unlike her. I don't think she would have opened the door to just anybody. That's just my personal opinion. I think she opened that door for somebody that she trusted. If she knew the person that she opened the door for, yes, I would have known that person too, maybe. A lot of people showed up to the funeral. Every client Hal had, any business associate, they were all there. There were a lot of men in suits. They were the detectives, because nobody knew who killed her at that point. There were a couple of employees that were acting strangely. They were overly dramatic, which I found odd, because behind Kay's back, these people didn't like her. But to her face, they acted like they were best friends. I do think that the reason that the detectives were there at the funeral home was maybe they suspected it was a colleague or an employee, somebody close to the Wennels or an associate. But that's just my perspective looking back.
So we released the sketch to the public just to generate some tips. And people would say, oh, I went to school with a guy that looked like that. Or, you know, I worked with a guy that looked like that. And we looked into all those, but then we at one point put it out nationally in the hopes that we would get, you know, more tips, which we did. And every time you put out the sketch, we'll generate a few tips, but nothing has led to any identification of any suspect. Several months after Kay's death, we're still in the infancy of the investigation. We get another great lead, we think. We're contacted by a local newspaper who received a letter. I bet Kay Wennell never told anyone what she really was. It turns out she was a money-grubbing whore. I loved her. She said we could be together. She told me that she hated her house and the fat, miserable, lying husband. She said she loved me, but that was a lie too. I told her this would happen if she didn't keep her promises to me. Well, reading this is certainly disturbing. I mean, it really hits home. This is a lot of anger, super angry. You can interpret the letter two ways. Is it someone trying to throw us off? You know, someone who did it and say, no, let's send this out there and make them look in a different way, or it's actually from the killer. It's mind-boggling because she's killed in a professional manner, but what professional would send a letter like that to attract attention?
I desperately want to know what happened that day, and whatever it's going to take, we're willing to do.
They just loved each other so much. And that's the way they were when I was always around them. Just loving each other so much and happy. Not a worry in the world. When I visited Georgia, which was several times, it never even crossed my mind that she would be having an affair. And she could have had that. I just knew nothing about it. I don't know. I just don't know. You know, I'm sure there's so many things that she didn't tell me. That sort of stuff just did not come out. And I just wished it would have. We'd know now.
When we received the letter, we thought that she had an affair with somebody. You can imagine somebody just sitting, fuming, sitting there meticulously cutting out letters and pasting them to a paper because they're so angry about whatever relationship they had with our victim. We went through her phone records. We couldn't find any evidence that she was having phone contact, texts, emails through her computer. We had no evidence that there was a romantic relationship outside the ones that we were aware of. Her previous ex-husbands and her current husband. We could not find any evidence of an affair. We take the letter, we send it off to the GBI for DNA. We're hoping that we get something off the envelope, the stamp, the letters that are pasted, but we do not get DNA from that letter. You can compare the letter to the crime scene, okay? So we know the guy, he's prepared, he's wearing gloves, he's very professional, he doesn't leave anything behind, and the same thing with the letter. He's very careful about how he constructs it. He's thinking about DNA. He's thinking about fingerprints. So I guess it suggests somebody who knows what they're doing or they're meticulous.
What do you think happened? Tell me what you think in your mind happened to Kay.
So I think it's somebody she knew and knew her, possibly knows you.
As God is my judge, I don't think Kay was having an affair, or she had to be the best damn actress in the world.
I honestly do not think that Kay was having an affair. I honestly don't. I think the letter is a ruse to make it sound like she was, but I don't think so. So my opinion is the female wrote this. That was when I first saw it. That's the first thing that I said was that came from a woman. It was very personal. The money-grabbing whore and several other things pinpoint to a female wrote that. It had to be somebody that knew her really well. She didn't tell a lot of people that she hated her house. I remember hearing her say one time, she was talking to another employee, and she was saying, oh, I hate my house. She wanted to buy a house. She didn't want to rent. To me, it's made to look like a jilted lover. But I hear a lot of anger towards Hal, not towards Kay. If you take the fat, miserable, lying MF of a husband, this person's angry with Hal. Whether this person had actually committed the crime, I don't know. But the person who wrote that letter had a hand in her murder. The general consensus in the office was that Kay knew who murdered her. Cutting her throat like they did, that was a personal, very personal attack. That was done to send a message, to hurt him and get her out of the way. It wasn't just random, I don't think. You don't cut throat from ear to ear just randomly. There are things about this case I don't feel comfortable saying on camera. There are a couple of things that I've talked to the police about, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. After her murder, I mean, I always look in the rearview mirror. I'll know if somebody's following me. Watch my surroundings wherever I go. And it's been like that for 15 years. You don't know who's responsible for this. Who is it? You don't know.
It's driving me crazy trying to figure out what took place. Detective, I don't know. I try to stay busy morning, noon, night. I hate the mornings going to work because I know I'm coming home to that house at night. Weekends I despise. I hope this never happens to you or anybody, because it takes a month and a half even to wake up in the morning and your mate's not beside you. There are nights I wake up crying my heart out, middle of the night, like a child. I've never known loneliness like this. It's a loneliness you can't reach because you have that thing with your mate, and it's horrible. It's really horrible, and especially if you don't know why.
He just dropped dead of a heart attack. Just sitting at a table, head down, boom. Right in the middle of a restaurant. I was like, oh my gosh. He just could not stand living any longer without Kay, is what I'm thinking. When I got the phone call, Hal had passed away that day, it was like losing Kay all over again. It's just difficult. He was really sweet, a sweet man, but I was very brokenhearted. That was the last connection I had to Kay. Hal always wanted me to take his picture those first 2 years. Every time I changed the flowers, Hal wanted the picture right there by her headstone. Over the years, I've gone back and we've made a special trip to Atlanta just to do that. Because that's just something I want to do for my sister.
I just wanted to say this. I want nothing more on God's earth than to find the guy who did this. And more important, why it had to happen. And there are many nights I don't sleep, and I give everything I have to get Kay's killer, to bring him to justice.
I will never drop it. I'm in for the long haul. I don't want Kay to be the forgotten one. I'm not only the last person, I'm the only person. Nobody else has called out the police department. None of our relatives. I'm the only one. I took this on because Kay would take it on for me. And Kay would never quit. But I'm not going to stop. I see cases all the time that's solved 40 years later. I'm waiting for that person to sit down and tell somebody to spill his guts. I wish he'd just pick up the phone and call me. Let me know what Kay did to you. Why did she make you so angry? I just want those questions answered. Just peace of mind for me. My parents didn't get it. I want it.
Several of the photos in particular were strikingly similar to the sketch that we had from our witness. For years, we wanted to identify that person in the photo. It's odd that that photo has been out in the national media for so long and that person never saw it or never responded if they did see it. Maybe we can get information from him. Maybe he can lead us to a suspect. Maybe he knows something we don't know. We eventually sent the towel, the lingerie, the glove again to try to see if we can extract additional DNA, because in order to put DNA into a private genealogy website, you have to get another profile. We send it off and we learn that, okay, yes, there's potentially some DNA of a male profile on the towel, but not enough to put into the genealogy site. So it's just another roadblock. And our hope is that one day this DNA evolves, that we can find our suspect through the genealogy databases. Absolutely, this case is solvable. I would never give up on any case, however long they go. This has been 15 years. It's a long time. Not giving up, always have hope, always get excited about new information, new tips. So hopefully what we're doing today will lead to some new information, another tip. Yeah, always hopeful, never gonna give up. I think we owe it to Kay. I think we owe it to Kay's family to continue to work on it. How can you possibly not? I mean, how can you give up?
I mean, look how beautiful she is. You know, they were very happy. He was a jerk. I mean, he really was to work for, but he was a good guy. I mean, other than his business, I do miss him. And I wish he'd had the answers that he wanted. Hal's dishonesty, he was dishonest about a lot of things in a lot of aspects of his life, but never once did I ever think he had anything to do with Kay's murder. He was never the same after her murder. He was at that gravesite every single day. He'd sit there for hours, talk to her. Somebody that had something to do with a murder wouldn't do that, in my opinion. She was a beautiful soul, an angel in my eyes. I never would have thought the end of their story would have been what it is. She was viciously murdered, and he died of a broken heart. If somebody's out there that knows something, they should come forward. It's been 15 years. It's time for justice to be served. It's time for justice to be served. I have an idea or a suspect in mind, but I'm not going to reveal that. I'm afraid for my life. I mean, if Kay can be killed, anybody can be killed. But I do have a suspect in mind. Yeah, I do. I don't think the person was adequately investigated over the years. Maybe that'll change.
It was madness. It was people running everywhere. The radio was chaotic. Your adrenaline's pumping 100 miles an hour. You're trying to figure out what's going on. The last thing Buddy did was got on the radio and screaming, I'm shot, I'm shot. But that was kind of his last act of.
The jury is now seated for the murder trial of accused Athens cop killer Jamie Hood.
My whole world just fell apart at that moment. I just remember kicking off my shoes so I could run faster and ran as fast as I could and gave him a big hug and just cried and cried and cried. Just all of our plans we had, kids, and those things would never come to be.
Ain't nobody leaving up until you do it, can you?
Okay, John. Okay.
When I realized I'm on the phone with this murderer, and I realized that he has people that are being held against their will, and one of the first things that came out of his mouth was, we have babies. It's real. It's from his kids. I don't know where his mind's at, but I know what he's already done. I know what he's capable of.
So this is a picture of Buddy and I on our wedding, February 17th, 1996. Buddy and I met when we were in high school. When I first saw Buddy, I immediately loved his eyes. He had the longest eyelashes and his green eyes. They were just ocean green, just beautiful green eyes. He was just very fun-loving and energetic and always joking. He was just a joy to be around. We've been married 4 years when we purchased our new farm. And it hadn't been finished or anything. So we worked our regular jobs during the day, and then every afternoon we'd work on the house. We finished half the upstairs. And then shortly after was when Callie was born. And then Wyatt, so we all shared as one big. It was really small for the four of us, but it was fun. But that was always our dream, was to build our house here and live the rest of our life here. We were very happy. I mean, nothing's ever perfect, but it was as perfect as it could be, with all the things and all the dreams that we were aspiring to do and working toward. Yeah, looking back, there's so many were pretty grand at the time.
I got her now. She's stuck.
On March 22nd, 2011, it started out like any normal day. Work was busy, and it just worked out that I didn't get to talk to him right away. 30 or 12, he called me and said that he was at lunch. He was telling me, I think he and his buddy Charlie were eating at Chick-fil-A, and they were having a good day. And I told him that we were about to go to lunch, so I better let him go. But later that day, I realized he had left a message on my phone.
Hey, babe, just checking in. We hope you're having a good day. And I'll holler at you later. Love you. Bye.
This is the voicemail that I found later that I didn't realize that I had. I'm so thankful that I had that. We always ended our phone conversations with "I love you," so I think he just said "love you," but that's...
March 22nd, 2011 was a normal day for me. I had received a phone call from a peer sergeant in robbery homicide, and just the sound of his voice, he was frantic and said, "I need you to get back to office right now. We've got 2 officers that's been shot." And for me, it was like the world stopped. We had never experienced anything like that. So I wanted to know, what happened and who was it. This had all started earlier that afternoon when a man in the east side of Athens was kidnapped. He was held at gunpoint, put in the trunk. He was able to escape while setting.
Clark County 911.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, I would like to report a kidnapping.
Okay, where are you at?
Luckily, I jumped out the boot of the car, and they home tied me and everything. And I know exactly who one of the dudes that they named Jamie Hood.
And that's what started the manhunt. He had boloed that information out. Everybody who was working was aware of the kidnapping and aggravated assault, and the offender was Jamie Hood. And so during that manhunt, your adrenaline's pumping 100 miles an hour. You're trying to set up. You're trying to figure out what's going on. The radio was chaotic. It was madness. It was people running. He performed a traffic stop, and when he went to get out of his vehicle, he was basically ambushed by Jamie Hood. And at that moment, Tony fell to the ground. That day, Buddy was on patrol. He was also looking for the call. Tony had a vehicle stopped. So as Buddy's coming up the road, he doesn't know that Tony's been shot. And he just saw the offender running, and then Jamie Hood ran up to the side of Buddy's car and basically assassinated him. And that bullet went in between his vest and entered his heart. Last thing Buddy did was got on the radio and screaming, I'm shot, I'm shot. That was kind of his last act of serving others, of trying to let others know what was going on. As backup officers began to arrive at the scene, they immediately realized that Tony was still alive, and they immediately started CPR for him and got him medical care, and then went and checked on Buddy, and Buddy was already deceased. At that point, I shifted my attention to the scene, and I don't believe I was prepared. It's just seeing him in that car and slumped over, and then on his computer, a picture of his kids, and just knowing what was going on at that moment. And this is my brother, this is my friend, and now he's paid the ultimate sacrifice. He's lost his life. And I had to stay focused because we had a job to do. And Buddy would.
When we received the information that there had been an officer-involved shooting, that an officer was deceased, your initial reaction is, do I know him? Me and Buddy went to the small community, and I was born and raised there, and so was he. I'd see Buddy around. I always heard great things about Buddy. There's sadness, there's anger. There's an anger that comes, but you don't have time to process that at that moment. You have to go and do the job. already got him identified, so now we have to apprehend him. You just think, hey, there's somebody out there that's going to harm somebody else if we don't find them. At some point while I'm at the command post, we get law enforcement to basically just walk a line, searching through the woods. We knew that he was possibly on foot, but we didn't know if he was getting assistance. And my biggest fear was that one of his friends, and tensions were high just because of the nature of the crimes that Jamie had committed and the fact that he hadn't turned himself in. You know, law enforcement thinks they're walking into a gunfight.
My mom called me, and she heard that there were 2 Athens County. So she called me and was like, have you heard from Buddy? I said, yes, I just talked to him, about an hour ago at lunch, and, he was fine. And as soon as I walked into work, my pastor was sitting there, the assistant chief, and then a good friend of Buddy and I's that worked at the police department as well. They were all standing there, and their faces, I could just tell that something was not good for me, because I turned around and immediately ran out the door and into the parking lot. If I could stop them from telling me this, then it's not really happening. And the gentleman that worked at the police department, Mark, he caught me in the parking lot, and I just, dropped to the ground. I asked him, where, can we go see him, and, where is he? And he really hard, because that's all I wanted to do in that moment was go be beside him. And I, did not know what to do, and, my whole world just fell apart at that moment. Just all of our plans we had, the kids and the farm, and
So my main focus was to catch the offender. There was also 2 roles, because while I was focused on the investigator of the honor guard, I had a responsibility to work with the family and help to plan a funeral. A few weeks before Buddy was shot and killed, we had an honor guard detail. We had officers standing guard at the casket, and Buddy was one of those officers. And as Buddy was standing there, the officer had a 10-year-old autistic get up, and Daddy come play with me, and it really, really, really affected Buddy. So he was really upset, and once he got relieved, he came to me and said, "Sir, I can't go back out there. I seen that as my son. I couldn't imagine that happening. I just can't do it." He could see that as being his son, and now the realistic for me is his son. And I talked to Melissa. I think the last thing I said is, we're going to take care of it. We're going to make sure that he gets full honors. And I meant that. I wanted to make sure that we done right by her and her family.
After day 1, we were grasping at straws on where Jamie Hood might be located. There was a sick on this guy. I never felt that we were getting closer as time went on. I felt like more time went on, the further away he was getting. You see the stress on people's face as they're just almost like, what if we don't get him? What if we can't find him? Jamie's reputation in law enforcement was, first of all, that he was very erratic. People that had dealt with him before, he's kind of a loose cannon. And he actually went to prison for an armed robbery and had gotten out. He was getting tied into the drug syndicate or the drug group in the Athens area, and we think that's probably what led to the kidnapping of the individual in the car and all that. The vehicle that vehicle was discovered, and we seized it and towed it to the GBI office in Athens. Crime scene specialists are actually processing that vehicle, and they find a shell casing. And the case agent believed that that was fired from the same gun that killed Amari Ray. My understanding was that Amari Ray was at home. He lived with his parents, and that somebody had knocked on the door and asked him to come outside. And he came outside and was murdered beside a carport area. We shot multiple times, I believe with a 9mm, and left there. There were shell casings found at the scene there. And Jamie Hood was not truly know how many other crimes were committed by this individual between that time or even prior to that time. We don't. There absolutely could be other crimes, maybe victims that we're not aware of. As the days wore on, I felt like, man, things are just, so we started pushing information out, including pictures of Jamie Hood, and the community responded. We were getting calls, the information was coming in, it was a ton, and we're trying to decipher. And we're getting this stuff, and I'll be honest with you, the command post was buzzing. There's a lot of activity. I'm wanting to clear my head just because it's pretty crazy, and I kind of walked down to the end of the command post and just gathering my, all of a sudden, and I hear one of the dispatchers who knows me, and she goes, "Trent, phone call." And so I'm just kind of like, I don't, what? And I almost was annoyed. And she goes, "It's Jamie." And I was like, "Who?" "It's Jamie." I was like, "Jamie who?" "It's Jamie Hood." And that was the moment that I realized.
Hey, Jamie.
Hey, sir.
Hey, brother. This is Trent Hill. I'm with the GBI. How are you?
Yeah, man. I can't keep doing folks like this, man.
All right.
Can't keep carrying on this, man.
All right, man. See.
Yeah, now look, though. Hey. I'm gonna let you talk to these hostages. If you get all these names, to let you know they're all right, okay?
Okay. All right. Let me talk to the hostages.
This murder, and I realized that he has people being held against their will. My mind starts racing a little bit. But at one point, he starts putting other people on the phone. And one of the first things that came out of his mouth, or the first things I remember coming out of his mouth, was, "We have babies."
Can you tell me how many folks are in there with Jamie?
Yes, it's 8 and a newborn.
Newborn.
Yes, sir.
It's real. It's real. At that point, it's like, oh, wow. What if he hurts one of these kids? And he's up and down. He's very erratic. And I don't want to do anything to set him off.
Jamie, you still there, man?
Yeah, man.
Okay, but we want to get all the other people out of there, the people that aren't involved.
Hold on, ain't nobody please help. I do.
Okay.
I'm telling you what you gonna do.
Okay, all right. Jamie. Jamie.
I had been thinking about seeing Buddy all week because from the moment they told me, let's go see him, and being told no was just heartbreaking. All I wanted to do was go see him. I wanted to run to him and give him a hug. As we're heading there, I start seeing where, and I just looked over at him and I said, "Is that what I think it is?" And he said, "Yes." And I didn't ask anything further. I knew that they would take care of it, and I knew that he would be captured one way or another, and I didn't have to worry about it. When we got there and they opened the door for me to go in, they were just going to let me go by reason, and I just remember kicking off my shoes so I could run faster, and ran as fast as I could to the casket and gave him a big hug, and just cried and cried and cried. When we were dating, we lived in different counties and were long distance from each other. Our parents got onto us for our long distance phone calls, so we had to write letters. The song Between now and then, until I see you again, I'll be loving you, love me. So we always sign our letters that way. And I had actually written a letter that I had worked on that the whole week, all the things that I wanted to say. I sat and read him my letter and just sat there and just was happy that I could finally be there. I told him, well, it's between now and then, till I see you again, I'll be loving you, love me.
I truly don't know the exact amount of time I was on the phone with him, but I know it was numerous short conversations of that training. But one thing that the GBI does a good job with is they teach us how to talk to people and how to relate. So that's where my mind went, is that, hey, this is just an interrogation.
Me and you are in this, buddy. We're in this together, okay?
Now you're talking my language.
Yeah, we're in this. Yes, sir. We're in it together. We're in it together.
Hold on, when you say I'm blocking for you.
You're right. You're right.
So let's play team ball then, bro. Let's get this over with, man.
Listen.
Y'all can go on back home.
Okay, me and you have a lot in common, man. I'm telling you right now. We want this thing to end peacefully. We want it to end smoothly. We both love football, man. It's one of my favorite things. We can talk that. We can talk football. We're in this together. Me and you are in it together.
I was trying to pull out something that we had in common, and actually having a conversation with me and a dialogue with me.
Okay, James. All right, I want you to hear me now. I need you, before this stuff starts happening, I need you to let them kids out, man. The kids,
I tell what you gonna do. You better let them out. The way I tell you to let them out.
I know, James.
I didn't have to call you, Fred.
Okay, you're right, James. You didn't have to call us.
So I'm having you out, Fred. Okay. This is team over here.
Okay, tell me where. Tell me where you want me to get the team to. I don't know where you're at right now.
Hold on, he's gonna tell you your address.
Okay, all right. We're about to get. All right.
Hello?
Okay, I need to know where you're at, sweetie. Tell me what the address is.
102.
102?
Creek.
There was a sense of relief because I knew we weren't looking for him anymore. But then the anxiety of he could hurt, a little bit of relief pretty quick.
Yeah.
Got the address. Get the team over here.
Okay, get the team over there.
But they give me to the location, and the negotiators are there listening and everything. So I was able to pass the phone off at that moment. And there was so much relief when I got that phone out of my hand.
Lieutenant Magnus, can I help you?
Oh yeah, hold on. Do you want to keep these folks alive? These rest of these folks are goddamn live over here.
Yes, sir.
You get me this team so they can watch y'all. Don't trust you.
You don't trust us, so you want to see us on the television?
Oh yeah, y'all don't.
He's wanting media there. He thought that we were going to execute him. I do think he thought that. Our biggest concern was that he was wanting to it was a total relief at that moment, but we still had people in that house. And then I hear over the radio 1095, which means there's a 10 code for in custody. When he surrendered between two late his actions. And I think that's the definition of a coward. From the time that he first called to the time that I heard in custody over the radio, I believe I forever. And I kind of sat there, gathered myself, and I was almost like, oh, it's over. For about 5 minutes, and then realized, hey, yeah, we're going to talk to this guy. And ego kicks in. As an investigator, you want to be the one that gives the confession.
My name's Jeff. This is Trent. We're here from GBI. We're going to talk to you.
Oh, you Trent? Yes.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of the interview with Hood after he was taken into custody. We did not think he would talk at all. So as we get ready to do the interrogation, I totally kind of blended it.
Oh. Yo, that's a minute drain, bro.
He never asked for an attorney, but he does say, I'm tired, I just really don't want to talk about it right now. So at that point, we're thinking we're not going to ask any questions, and we just kind of sat back, and he kept talking, and we let him talk.
I want to, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
You don't want to give me the depth I deserve because what I did. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean,
hey, I'm wrong, bro. I ain't here to make your job hard. The only thing I regret is hurting that damn innocent man. What else to do is hurt me to the core of my damn heart.
Talking about other officers?
Yeah, his folks. That's the only thing hurt me, keeping it real.
Yes, sir.
And hurting these innocent folks. You know,
having a conversation with me.
Kids, he traumatized them.
I understand.
You see, whatever they give me, the share. I did, is he? We need the police. We couldn't live without you.
So he remorse for killing Buddy Christian. I'll take this with me to the grave, that everything he did was very calculating. I don't believe he felt remorse. I believe he, in his mind, that's what he had to do to try getting away that day, and that's what he was doing. Jamie, he is very streetwise. He knew what he was doing, and he was trying to manipulate the situation. The interview, when it was concluded, we actually left in kind of good terms with the knowledge that, hey, we're coming by to talk to you again, and he seemed to be fine with that. He loves the attention, which aggravated the mess out of us. I felt like we're almost feeding into him a little bit.
We'll talk to you.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It's a picture of Jamie Hood, and I don't care to see that, and that's what evil looks like. After 12 years, I'm still disgusted just to see it, just because of the coward he was and what he did to this community and the Christian family and the Howard family. That he was in custody at that moment, I just broke down. It seems like all the way before that, from the start of this 6 days ago, I kept everything in. I was focused on Buddy. I was focused on Melissa. I was focused on doing the right thing. It really hit me at really the magnitude and what we had lost as a department, as a community. Yet with a situation where an officer loses their life, they wanted to serve their community, and they gave the ultimate sacrifice. But the ones who suffer and pay the most are the families, the ones that are left behind, to pick up the pieces and to try to move on.
The body of slain officer Buddy Christian arrives at the cemetery, followed by Christian's family.
The whole procession, I think it was about 7 miles, but it was lined the whole street. The community came out. I mean, there wasn't a bare spot along the whole route, and the kids and we got to see all of that, and people had signs, our hero, and thank you, Officer Christian, or thank you. But you can tell in my face, I was really an autopilot. I just really switched it off and just going through the motions. I was given the folded flag from the chief, and I just hugged it. That was, I felt like I was hugging him. It was just a beautiful tribute to someone who gave his life for his community. Now what? When I remember sitting there with my mom and looking at the picture, I'm like, how is this real? What? I don't really believe it still. It's not. It just can't be.
He did what I call a true confession, where he fills in all the gaps. He basically says, I'm sorry for killing that man. So we never got a true confession from him. I feel strong we could have took him into a courtroom that day and convicted him for the murder of Buddy. But we're trying to attach him to another homicide. I mean, we were trying our best to figure out the Amari Ray murder at that point. Contact I had with Jimmy Hood, he never mentioned Amari Ray. He never did make a statement in reference to that. Amari Ray's family deserves some closure too, and there needs to be justice. So we're going to try to put that piece together.
Police tell me they are investigating Jamie Hood as a possible suspect in the shooting death of 30-year-old Kenneth Omari Ray.
That case until after Buddy was murdered and we started that investigation. The relationship between Amari Ray and Jamie Hood was not as clear-cut. Our belief is that Amari Ray might have been involved in the drug trade a little bit. And we don't know if there was other grudges. We don't know that, but that seems to be the main focus of what set everything in motion. And then there was some drug trading going at that murder. Looking at the end results here with a dead police officer, a kidnapping, you know, we look back at it and we do feel like, hey, if we would have solved, you know, this stuff wouldn't have happened. But I can't go back in time. You can't point fingers, and there are no fingers to point. If you do, you point them at yourself. So.
After 4 years, 3 judges, and 2 sets of defense attorneys, a jury is now seated for the murder trial of accused Athens cop killer Jamie Hood.
After he fired 2 sets of defense attorneys, Hood is acting as his own lawyer.
I feel like he, in his mind, this is a big movie, and he's the star character, and everybody else is just small bit part actors in it. Never could step back from himself and say, hey, I ruined a bunch of lives here. Man, he liked being up there. He liked the grandstand. In my mind, he's a coward.
Following Buddy's death, the community has really stepped up in remembering and creating opportunities to remember Buddy. One of Buddy's lifelong goals was to build in the community, looked at that as an opportunity to really fulfill Buddy's dream and to help know that his kids would be taken care of and have a nice place to live. And so they got together, a lot of fundraisers, and a beautiful house was built. And, you know, Melissa, she's very strong. And she has done everything to make sure that she properly honors Buddy and his memory. And she's just been amazing in her commitment to keeping Buddy's memory alive. Melissa made sure that the kids know their father, even though he's no longer here. I think the sad thing is that he's having to be at a cemetery and just look at a picture of his father versus being able to actually hold his father and having someone there to be there for him. What do I miss about Buddy? I miss his smile, jokes, and just his personality. He's just genuinely a really, really great guy.
This past February would have been our 27th wedding anniversary, and I always go to the cemetery and put new flowers on his headstone, and I try not to, get too upset about what it could have been and just try to remember, all the 15 years that there's just so many things that you just become one person, and when that's gone, it's like half of you died. I think half of me did die, and I've had to rebuild that other half, and it still is a journey for me to rebuild myself and figure out, who I am without him and who I still want to become, So it's just still a learning process. I remember him telling me, if something ever happened to me, you have to live. You have to continue our dreams and live for me. And, you can't sit and pine away. You have to live. And that gives me a more reason to be happy and do things, because I know he wants me to do that. So part of on this new road that I've started is I've gotten remarried. God just works in mysterious ways, and he led this wonderful man into our lives, and he knew Buddy, so he has his own stories about him, and he can tell the kids, and he knows of his character and, all those things. And when we got married, I believe Callie was 8 or just about to turn 9, and she was so happy to have a dad here and a dad in heaven, and it just was really beautiful the way we were able to weave everything together. A lot of people get stuck and don't continue on with that fork in the road, but I decided I was going to do all that I could to live like he told me to, and, show the kid and define our life, and we're still going to live a good life and our best life and honor your dad and keep him in our heart and, still do all these dreams. They'll be different dreams, but they're going to have pieces of what I had started out on. And, it did not defeat us. We will overcome it.